And we are live. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Loose Canon. This week, we are going to be talking about a season of the Risen lore book, the Martian Missives, which actually I think isn't really season of the Risen, and it's more of a Witch Queen lore book.
Yeah, I think you're right. Sort of, kind of.
But
Hard.
yeah. So people playing Destiny right now, we have it's just called Solstice now. It's no longer Solstice of Heroes. That's going on right now. I haven't, I still haven't really put too much time into Destiny. I mean to go back and experience this, especially because I'm seeing it's got like really good armor rolls. Have you been playing much of it?
No, not much. I did kind of jump in just to see what it was all about, though, and
Mm,
I like the fact that it's much easier this time around.
yeah.
You don't have to upgrade the armor, which is a cool. It was a cool feature and thing that they implemented, but it could be kind of like, you know, long and arduous.
Hmm.
I think the coolest thing was they kind of give you the armor and you just go out and play and you immediately will get some good stuff, good rolls, good crap to add to your crap.
Yeah, because it's still taking place in the European aerial zone, right? It's just
Yeah.
now there's no treasure chests, and I think they changed a few things about
Yep.
it.
Yep.
I heard they removed that sewer that you could enter and you would see one of the Dreaming City cats. They got rid of that, I heard.
Oh, I didn't know about that. That's
Yeah, I
pretty
mean, it
funny.
never really did anything. It was just kind of there. But people were like, "What is this? What does it mean?" And I guess it didn't mean anything, so it's kind of an alright thing that they got rid of
It's a
it.
glitch.
Um in
The
more
bonfires
exciting
are
news.
cool.
Oh yeah,
Sorry.
and that's the other big thing. You're lighting a bonfire, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the coolest thing I thought was the new bonfire that you're building. You're
Does it
building the
kind of go
bonfire
hand in
with
hand with Rift?
no. It's like you have to get kindling
Hmm.
and you add the kindling to the bonfire and then you eventually set it afire, which is like taking blight energy
Okay.
looking stuff. I don't know how that technically works out, but um, you're building a bonfire and then you set it ablaze.
Interesting
Yeah.
fire mechanics.
Yeah.
In more exciting news, just this week we got told that on August 23rd there's going to be a Lightfall showcase
Yeah.
right at the halfway point too. That's what's really interesting about it. It's
Yeah.
gonna be right at that halfway point.
I thought it was going to be later. I didn't think they would do it this
Yeah.
early. I thought at least they'd wait. I thought the earliest they would do it would be in September.
Yeah, especially if because when did Witch Queen come out? That was February, right?
Yeah, and I know it was delayed ultimately.
Well, to
So like,
February
yeah,
because it was originally supposed to come out in September, like Destiny usually does. But now you just have to assume everything is going to be coming out. The yearly release is going to be coming out in February, and
right.
so this season ends. I think it ends in August, right?
Yes.
And so then the new season begins. So then you got like the that like last week of August. So really September, October, November, and then you got the January, no, the end of November, December, January, and then that beginning in February, almost to the end of February. So we have two whole seasons that are basically going to out after this showcase. And actually, if I remember correctly, the new season comes out on the showcase day, doesn't it?
Oh, is that right?
I'm
Yeah, that would make sense. That would make sense though. That would make because they've done that before.
what is it? See, this is why this needs to be Witch Queen
I
season
know.
3. Um,
It should be Destiny 3.
Destiny season, I think it's like 18 now. 18 release. August 23rd.
Wow.
Yep. So it's going to be on the same day. So you're going to have so much content being distributed to you, and it's going to be, I imagine if they're showing the showcase for it, it's going to be really setting the tone for the next two seasons because it's like you know what's going to happen now in Lightfall. You have some idea of what's going to happen
Right,
now in Lightfall.
right,
We we talked about it on our last episode. We were like, what the fuck does Lightfall even mean? Like, there's
right.
so many ways it could go.
So hopefully the seasons will line up in a way that you won't be playing it thinking, "Oh, well, this is for nothing because I already know what's about to happen."
Yeah, right. And
You know what I
that's the
mean?
tricky
Because
thing.
yeah, because like when they showed off Savathun, the reveal for Savathun, we knew that Witch Queen was coming, and we knew part of the story arc just because of the trailers, and we knew enough to know that what we were doing in the time being, we were not like, oh, I wonder what's coming. I
Yeah,
want, you know,
yeah.
we knew
Like,
Savathun was coming, even though the game didn't.
yeah. It's kind of it was kind of weird being like, oh, Mara's gonna kill Savathun, and we're just sitting there like, no, she's not.
Right.
What? But yeah, so we'll have a show on that after it comes out, and I mean that'll be the first. Yeah, that's gonna be holy shit. Yeah, actually, it just occurred to me. Um, we're gonna have a show 2 days before it, which is good because then that lets us have like a week of the season, a full week of the season, and then another like partial week. So then kicking it into September 4th would be the show after the showcase. We could probably do a
Yeah.
showcase show then.
Yeah.
And then the 18th, giving us like a month of the season, we can talk about the season and
Yeah.
really get
And
to
then,
experience what that season is and have something valuable to say, not just be like fun, gun good, nothing.
yeah, as most people always do whenever there's a new season, it's like, I got new stuff. Oh,
Yeah.
it's so great. And then you're kind of like a month later, oh, wait. Oh, man, there's so much going on now.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure it's gonna be great. I'm not expecting it to be bad or anything. It's just it's better to say, wasn't it awesome when this happened and it happened
Yeah.
we have
Yeah.
all this stuff to talk about.
Yeah. Well, and then you assume that after that you've got Festival of the Lost, and then after that, you've got a long period until the dawning, and then after that you've got the
Mm-hmm.
new. So it'll be two seasons, but what kind of to expect a little bit, maybe.
Mm.
Because you got Festival of the Lost and you got the dawning at the end of both, or somewhere in the middle of both.
Uh if I'm right, the dawning should be that's kind of messy. The dawning would probably be kicking no, it'll be in season 4.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it'd be like in the
Because
middle
it'll
of
be
season
in,
4. So
yeah,
it actually
yeah.
fits better. Because it used to
So
be game releases in September, expansion or first season releases in December. Okay, it's dawning, and it's like, whoa, what's happening? Why are we celebrating right now?
yeah, what is there to celebrate right now?
Well, we have a lot to talk about.
Yep.
The Martian Missives lore book is an interesting one. Has an interesting premise that kind of follows through its 8 entries, and we'll go through all 8 of its entries. And for those who haven't read it, I think you'll like kind of what this book does. Um, and you might have seen people talking about the book. Like I had a friend who actually was like DMing me, and they're like, "What do you think about this?" And I was like, I don't, even, I hadn't read the book yet. I was like, I have no idea what to think about that." And then reading the book, you're like, "Oh, it's very obvious what to think about it. Just keep reading, and you'll see what's going on." But before we get into that, do you want to talk about the lore card this week?
Yeah. So Destiny lore card this week is it's a ship. It's called the Final Instar. Flavor text reads, tuned a dozen times and more to achieve the perfect form, which is kind of funny because an instar is the name given to the developmental stage of an arthropod between molts. So the origin for it is a Latin word meaning form. slash likeness. This pertains to insects. They can routinely cast off their exoskeleton during specific times in their life cycle. The insect form in between two subsequent molts is termed an instar. So this would be the final instar, right? The form before its final shape. So the after hatching from an egg, an insect is said to be in its final instar. So when the insect molts, it's in the second instar, and so on until its final instar. Instar is the name given to the developmental stage of an arthropod between molts, but it can be used for insects undergoing complete and incomplete metamorphosis. So, for example, a butterfly caterpillar or a moth larva can go through several instars throughout
Hmm.
their developmental, life cycle. Um, Larvae appear in variety of forms and are termed as caterpillar, grubs, or maggots in different insect species, which you think about. Um, the larval development consists of a series of stages in which each stage is separated from the next by a molt. So a molt is when uh, insects routinely cast off their exoskeleton during different parts of their life cycle. The insect form in between two subsequent molts is the instar, but in order to get there, they must shed the exoskeleton in order to grow or assume a new form. So, after they shed their exoskeleton, most juvenile arthropods will continue their life cycle until they either pupate or molt again. The number of instars an insect undergoes often depends on the species and the environmental conditions. Examples: the species of Lepidoptera. I always say that wrong. It's the moth caterpillar. Um, I brought up moths and caterpillars for obvious reasons because the game, Savathun, uh, has a lot of moth-like, uh, you know, visuals, aesthetics, stuff like that to go with it. But what's interesting about the ship is if you look at the ship, you can see it actually looks like an in-between stage or right before they spread their wings and they harden that final exoskeleton, which is kind of interesting.
So I'm looking at this ship and I'm hearing you talk about like the molting and stuff,
Uh-huh.
and I'm not sure if this is like a New England thing because I hear things about them and I'm just trying to look it up to like confirm,
Sure.
but it reminds me of cicadas. Have you ever do you have cicadas where you live?
Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
it'd be like you see because they molt, they'll like land on a tree and they'll molt, and it's like a perfectly formed cicada shell is just
Hell yeah,
left
that's
on the
perfect.
tree,
Yeah. It
and that's
does
what
look
it looks
exactly
like.
like that. Yeah, it really does. Yeah, it
And
really
is it
does.
true that they? Okay, wait. This is it. This is it. Though these cicadas' life cycles can vary from 1 to 9 or more years as underground nymphs,
Yeah, they
their
do.
emergence above ground as adults is not synchronized. So some members of each species may appear every year. Okay, see, because I heard that. I heard that they live underground for like 9 years and they only emerge every like decade or so. And I'm like, but
Yeah.
I've heard them for several summers as a child,
Yeah, because
so
it's
that
so
can't be
many. Yeah.
true. It's just not synchronized. The
Right, right, right.
individuals do, but these ones wake up, then these
Yeah.
ones wake up,
Yeah.
then these ones wake up. Okay. But yeah, so that's what I was thinking. If that myth were true that they spend decades and then synchronize come out of the ground, this was the year
Yeah.
that I heard them again for the first time in so long. I was gonna say maybe that's what Bungie was doing with this.
Hey, could be. I mean, they're at the 10-year mark, aren't they?
Yeah.
What's funny about that when you say cicadas, that's typically like a southern regional type of thing, I would think. Here in Texas, we have tons of cicadas,
Is
and
it
then you
is it
go,
a
yeah.
southern thing? Because I've always
Well,
heard them as a kid.
I know it's like in America, it tends to be like a more southern thing. It feels like,
Huh.
uh, but uh, but yeah, I don't know if that's technically because the cicadas are different looking. Um, like in Mexico, they call them chinchadas,
Hmm.
but they have that 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 shaker sound
Yeah,
that just kind of
that's
buzzes
the
forever.
cry that they make. It's like
Yeah.
very very loud.
Yeah, and it's just on and on and on and
Yeah,
on and on. Yeah.
I saw a I saw a cicada killer. It's a type of wasp. It's like it's a wasp that's
They're
like
like really big.
yeah, it's like 4 inches long,
My
and I
God.
saw it kind of like crawling out of a storm drain, and I was like, "The fuck is that?" And I thought it was one of those Japanese killer hornets or whatever, the ones that are
Yeah,
like
the one that
really
everybody's
bad.
worried about. Yeah.
They look so identical that like just at first glance I was like why is this here? Why is this outside
Yeah.
my apartment? And I was like I
Coming
was a
to
little
get you.
concerned. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh no, that's a cicada killer. I still don't fucking like it, but
Yeah.
at least it's not the Japanese one.
That was a good thing to point out because the ship really does look like the shell of a bug left behind.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
It should make cicada noises as it flies. Like how some ghosts do.
Yeah.
Imagine that if you go to the hangar and you see your ship come in and it says and it's fucking loud as shit.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Damn bugs.
All right. I don't know if you're at the end of the lore
No,
card. I
that's
didn't mean to
it.
cut you
Yeah,
off.
that's it.
Oh,
Well,
okay,
obviously it
okay.
flies, so it's got to be a flying insect.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't fucking like I don't like cicadas.
I don't think a lot of I think a lot of people don't like. I mean, they're just annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a part of it for sure that they're annoying, but it's just like as a kid I got like kind of attacked by a horsefly at the beach, and it like got on my skull and it was like biting my head, and I couldn't get it out because of, like my hair and stuff, and I was out in the water too, so I was freaking out. I was like,
You should have just jumped in the. You should have just gone under the water.
I did. It didn't get off.
And it didn't get out. It was stuck in your hair.
I think it was stuck in my hair, and I think it was mad at me for getting stuck in my hair, so it was
Oh, that's
biting me
awesome.
because it couldn't get
Yeah,
out, and it was like let go of me, and I'm like, get the fuck off of me.
yeah.
Like
Well,
I was out so far that like I couldn't even stand. I was out in like deep water, and it fucking lands in my hair and it gets tangled and it
yeah.
was biting me.
Well, it's funny because those are the sounds of summer, and so
Yeah,
naturally you would like assume that uh, pleasantry is the background noise to the season, right? So like people think of, oh, I can hear the cicadas in the trees and the crickets chirping, and all of those sounds, or like here in Texas, we have mockingbirds. I don't know if you got those anywhere else, but the
no,
mockingbirds are the most, they have this really weird, whistly, beeping, digital type of sound. It's a really cool sound on its own. But when you have thousands of them in the city just cackling and making noise, and they call them mockingbirds because they mimic other birds' noises too. So you don't know what the hell you're hearing half the time,
that's cool.
but they go nuts and they won't shut up forever. And
Yeah,
so anyway, it's just funny because all these sounds you assume or you think about, uh, and people are like, oh, I like to listen to background noises and junk like that, and it's always crickets or cicadas in the trees or waterfalls and junk like that. But the
yeah.
people here are like, oh, I hate this stuff.
I used to have a white noise machine, and I would play like cricket sounds because when I was a kid, I used to have crickets right out my window, and I would hear them all night. So like I got that, and I would listen to it, and I was like, oh yeah, this is just like when I was a kid, and I would fall right asleep to that. But like
That's awesome.
the birds in the morning, they annoy me.
Yeah.
um, so then let's get into this lore book.
Let's go.
So this lore book, Martian Missives from Season of the Risen slash the Witch Queen, probably actually. It has 8 entries, and so we'll just kind of break them down, go one by one. If there's anything in here that you want to point out, we can stop and point them out.
Okay.
Um, so I wrote up as I do a summary of all of them. We will read through them. And so the first one is Osiris 1, and So Osiris leaves us a message somehow during his time under the control of Savathun. In this letter, he explains that the point he lost Sagira, he was, for all that it mattered, already dead. So he allowed Savathun to take over his body. And this is actually contradictory to a previous lore entry that we have. And once I finish this, we'll read that as well. Uh, but assuming it's just his bravado speaking, trying to act fully in control so that he's like, we can accept this at, because that's how he is.
Yeah,
He would be like, I lost to Savathun, but I let her win.
yeah. He would
So
never like accept defeat or whatever.
yeah, and the entry from Wolf Tone Draw, um, it's not an entry. It's written from like an omniscient standpoint, so it's not like he shared that with anyone. Whereas this, it's him sharing it with us. So he's kind of he's the narrator, he's the bias, and so to assume that it was true, this is true. While Savathun controls him, he is, as he puts it, left alone in her storied halls to learn all she has seen. And it would seem that Savathun taking over Osiris allowed some piece of him to take over her. And
Right.
so I suggest, could it be the reason he's in the coma is he's still within her consciousness? And without Imaru to revive Savathun, he's stuck there.
Oh, good point.
So uh, the entry Wolf Tone Draw from Season of the Lost, which is after we learned Osiris was taken over, we have this kind of, like I said, omniscient standpoint where it's Osiris within his own body that Savathun is controlling, and it says the smell of night flowers I am walking. She is walking through a moonlit garden, and there is Ikora speaking, laughing, nodding. Look, Ikora, look at me. Don't you see it? Pay attention, pay attention. I taught you better than this. A woman in Exo sits before me and sways, eyes vacant, but inside she is sinking as well. Now her voice, her true voice, humming a gyre of sound, and the exo sways faster and faster. I hear this voice and push to the surface. Saint, no, no, no. I scream, but there is no sound. He looks into her eyes. He smiles. He reaches for me, but it is not me. Saint, that is not me. Please, please, please. So very sad that's what Osiris was experiencing, but it kind of throws into question this letter that he somehow wrote to us.
Yeah.
Like, just right off the bat, how did he even write this letter? But yeah. And he says he ends it with kind of almost actually making it sound like give up on me. He says, "Do not let my sacrifice be in vain."
Right, like
And
he was accepting
yeah.
that his fate was sealed.
And so the second entry is Eris 1. And so these are all letters being sent to us by various allies. And so Eris sends us a letter reminding us of the true threat of Savathun. And she feels that she is likely, she also includes in here that she feels she's likely a sleeper agent of the Witch Queen and asks us to eliminate her the moment she seems suspicious. And like, yeah, it's I need a friend and ally whom I can trust to eliminate me the moment I act suspiciously. Do not hesitate, Guardian. Do not second guess. Do not beg me to seek redemption. I am already fallen, and the greatest mercy you can offer is swiftness. You alone I trust with this vital task. Eris Morn.
Hmm.
Also, in this entry, there is this line, make no mistake, she discarded the guise of Osiris because it was no longer, and the word is supposed to be valuable, but it says VALUA space 8LE, and it's weird.
That is
Typos
weird.
aren't impossible, but this doesn't feel like a
Right.
typo. Do you have anything that you want to mention about
I
that one?
thought it was just a typo.
You thought it was just a typo?
Yeah.
Well,
How close is the 8 to the B? Oh, it's pretty far. Well, unless you got some fancy keyboard.
yeah, no, 8 and B are nowhere near each other. Like,
Oh my goodness.
they look similar, but they're nowhere near each other on the keyboard. And there's a space. It's not like they subbed the B and the 8. There's a space between VALUA and 8LE.
Hmm.
Um, and then entry three is Ikora one. This comes encrypted from like the standard hidden reports. And so the
Yeah.
sender is ICO 006, which is Ikora. And in this entry, Ikora is just reminding us not to trust Finch because he seems a little too eager. Like he's giving us all this information. It's like, be wary. It's like very, very neutral compared to the other two, which was like, I am dead and please kill me. For those wondering, FYN 002 is Finch, and CHA 319 is Chalco. Is it Chalco Lin or Chalco Yin?
I don't remember.
It's a hunter. It's a hunter that Ikora has romantic interests with.
Yeah.
So that brings us to entry four, which this is one that my friend asked me about on Twitter. So Keitel sends us a letter informing us that Hercabal have found a mutilated body on Nessus, and using their technology, they were able to confirm it was the true body of Osiris. She doesn't hold faith in Ikora's identification of Osiris in the city because Ikora has already failed to tell him apart once. Keitel warns us the body we know as Osiris because when warns us of the body we know as Osiris because when Sabathun sent Zivu Arath to Torah Bottle, it was wearing the mask of a trusted advisor. So, just a quick refresher. Umunarath was tricked by Savathun into worshipping Zivu Arath and eventually summoning Zivu Arath to Torah Bottle, which led to the downfall of Torah Bottle.
Right.
And Keitel's basically saying, like, I don't know if what you have is a bomb, is a weapon, like it could be anything, and you should dispose of that body.
Yeah, because it could be, you know, yeah, it could be a gateway to.
Yeah, like I mean that's what Amuna Wrath was like.
Yeah, yeah,
Keitel stabs Amuna Wrath and they just start laughing, and then I don't know if Zivu like burst from their body or what, but that was like the final piece of the ritual to summon
right,
Zivu
right.
Wrath.
Like that could very much happen to Cyrus's carcass.
Yeah, I mean it very much could. You're absolutely right, but
Alco
moving kind of
Yong,
fast.
Yong,
Yeah.
that was the name
Um.
I was trying to remember.
Sorry.
The Yong, Chalco Yong, isn't that it?
I could have sworn, excuse me, was Yin or Lin.
Well, I see Yong. Yeah, it's Yong. It was on Dragon Shadow.
You are correct. Wait, isn't Chalco a woman?
I I would assume because in the Vesper Radius, I think is where she's talking. Let's see. It doesn't explicitly say.
I
Oh,
could have sworn. I could have sworn. There was.
hmm. Chalco, 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 Chalco.
I'm pretty sure she is. Either way, it is Chalco Young. Young. I found the Destinypedia article, and this is funny because Chalco Young was a hunter and member of the Hidden who is close friends with Ikora. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, what
I'm
else are you gonna write until you know?
Yeah, to be fair, the
Yeah,
romantic interest is a very recent development. This entry was
yeah,
probably written like 2 years ago, like maybe
yeah,
even more. So
yeah. It
it's
takes a while for a lot of that stuff to get updated.
yeah, and that's fine. That's fine. That's fair. It's just funny in today's climate. It's
It
like, okay,
is.
buddy. Like the what is it? The lovers of it's one of my favorite thing.
Uh,
Lovers of, damn it.
you talking about the star-crossed lovers?
The Lovers of Valdero.
Hmm.
No, that doesn't sound right. The Lovers of Medina. So there are these two skeletons that were seen holding
Oh,
hands
in the
like as they
grave.
died.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, and so they were called the Lovers of Medina, and then like years after their discovery, years after their discovery, it was revealed that they were both men, and then they
Yeah.
were like, oh, these aren't lovers; they must have been like siblings, or
Yeah.
maybe they fought a war together.
Right.
This fucking people
Yeah.
suck.
I know. Let's just make up whatever we want to feel at the moment.
Yeah. But so, back to Martian Missives, and here's another one. Here's another one of the eights that I'll get to. We have a second entry from Ikora, who, as you might recall, was the only one who seemed kind of normal. This one, however, is not a hidden document, it's just a regular letter. And so she's kind of just confiding in us that she's blaming herself for letting Savathun into the city. And then she kind of like turns it around and casts doubts on Savala and tasks us with protecting ourselves from the day that he inevitably will betray us or fail to like do the right thing. And she like calls reference to do whatever it takes to ensure your safety just in case this jinx on powerful guardians doesn't end with me. Don't follow poor Cade 8's fate. And
Oh yeah.
once again, the 8 appears, and
Yeah, there it is.
it's supposed to be Cade 6 with no space, but it's Cade space 8.
This is crazy. Oh, by the way, you're right. It is Chalco is a she. It's all in the Cartesian coordinate lore, which originally didn't have lore entry.
No, that was one of those returning things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's a whole lore about Chalco.
Yeah.
Beyond.
But so
And
it's we have these 8s appear twice now,
this is nuts.
and I don't really know what to think of them because we've gotten things like this before. We've seen this in like for example, Truth to Power. Remember that when it was like
Yeah,
breaking apart and it was like, "Oh, I'm actually a submind Medusa," and blah blah blah. And I'm
right.
like waiting for something more substantial than a single number to be revealed, but it's just a number. And it's like, what does a number mean? We're past season 8. Are we approaching year 8? Oh shit, wait, are we?
Um, we're past that.
2014 to 15 to 6 14 to 15, 15 to 16, 16 to 17, 17 to 18, 18 to 19, 19 to 20, 20 to 21, 21 to 22. So we are in year 8.
Okay. All right. Wait a second.
Well, I got nothing.
Okay, I don't either.
There's something there. I don't know what it is, but I'm confident there's something there. It happened
Gotta be
twice.
something there. Yeah. Well, it was like remember the Telesta lore that nobody knew about until
Yeah.
forever later, and then we were
And
like,
they
"Oh,
who was
Pro
that?
desires power."
Go on.
No, no, that was it. I was just saying the hidden message inside there.
Yeah. Who was it that there was a writer who had to say like no one's found it
Uh,
yet. Like
yeah,
he like
Seth,
drew
Seth,
attention to
and
it.
yeah, Seth brought it up.
Yeah. And it was shortly after that, after he brought attention to it, we realized what it was. It was a paladin
Right, right. It was uh Aldrin untrustworthy. No, or Crow untrustworthy desires power. Is that
yeah.
right?
That's what the secret message is. So it's specifically, but so there's a way to tell when the secret message is being used, and it's when the name Paladin or Ran appears.
Yeah.
When you see Paladin or Ran, you take the first letter of each word and it makes the encoded message, which is like the lamest encoding ever, but it
Yeah,
worked. No one
yeah, it
found it
did.
for until it
Nobody
was.
found it forever. And it was one of those lures that stood out too, because we were all like, what does this even mean? This is so goofy.
Yeah.
Like, none of the string of text really made logical sense to
Hmm.
even like send out as a message to anyone. And we just glossed over it. It's like when you go back and read all of the Warmind flood text, right?
Hmm.
Or all of that stuff that revolved around Rasputin early on in D1, you're trying to figure out, well, what is this? What is this? What does this mean? All of these string text, almost elite speak.
Yeah.
And they're like, what is he doing? What is he doing?
So
Oh, and then everybody, yeah, go ahead.
for those wondering what it did actually say, it said contingency reserves overdrawn. We underestimated nobility troth reparations. Aldrin suggests that we open reintegration talks. Have you discussed endowment support? If Reef endorses support, Paladin Oran will engineer reinforcement.
Yeah, which if you break that whole sentence down and try to find out what does that mean, it means that hey, we've run out of supplies. We need to start talking about getting some more here. Otherwise, we're going to have to go to some other means of negotiation,
Yeah.
which means we're going to have to start drawing weapons or whatever. Which it was like such a weird statement to have to say when you're freaking the awoken reef whatever, and you're stuck whatever waiting on your queen to come back at the time, but you have other means of getting supplies and things that you want. You're freaking pirates.
They were supposed to be pirates. That
Well,
never really happened.
the reef though, the reef and the prison of elders and that whole area, I mean, they had plenty of ways to get stuff back to them.
Yeah, no, they did. They certainly had resources.
Yeah, I mean, they were freaking experimenting on Taken in the pits of the in Hive in the pits of the prison of elders.
Hmm.
It's odd. It is really odd when you start to think about all of the things that have happened in Destiny so far.
What do you mean?
Just the history of Destiny, all the crazy things that have happened.
I mean, yeah,
Like,
there is a lot, but I'm just curious about specifics of what you mean.
no, there's nothing specific. I'm just saying in a total
You're just
freaking
saying in
mesh.
general?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There's not just meatballs in this spaghetti. There's like salmon and shrimp and freaking chicken and vegetables. It's like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Uh, well, so then we are talking about the Martian
Yeah,
Missives.
yeah,
The next entry is Toland 1. And again, it's kind of a matter of like how, because Toland is no longer in a physical body. But and this isn't, we've had entries where it's Tolan speaking, but it was again just like kind of like an omniscient bias, just
right,
observing. This is a
right.
letter given to us, and it starts out with odd communication technique but costly, thought to phoneme to mark to digital signal. Each transmutation yields less than the input, the alchemy of conception. Read well, Guardian, for less of value has filtered through these transmissions, and you must slake yourself on only the anhydrate wisdoms that remain.
See, that whole sentence is like a clue to what's going on earlier, where you have like a little secret, because this one really stands out. And it's basically telling you, hey, read well. You got to filter what's happening in these transitions. Like, it's almost like they're explicitly like telling us, hey, this is where you need to be looking for stuff.
Do you think that's what it is? I just think that's
That's what
general
it feels like
Tolan
because,
bullshit.
well, yeah, but Toland's bullshit typically has a little bit more prose and poeticism to it. This right here is a little odd because, like, just that one subpart where it says the alchemy of conception, that's basically like where life is born through a chemical type of thing. It's almost like you remember way back when he said, "Remember the killing word?" If somebody discovers the killing word and all that prose and poeticism that he had in there, uh, it's almost like that's Tolan. in a nutshell. That's how and when he speaks directly, but as if there is a finite purpose to everything, not in this way like, hey, yo, let me sit on your shoulder and tell you how to, guide you through what you're about to experience. That's not
Yeah.
Tolan. Even when he was a floating orb on the moon, he was very direct with you.
Yeah.
He was
Okay.
like, he was basically like, you suck. This is what's going to happen to you, and beware. Now it didn't happen because we're not crazy like he was, and consumed by you know his obsessive nature with the hive or whatever. So he just sees everything in that light. Uh, yeah, he's the cautionary tale of what can happen if you know, what drives a warlock to madness, that kind of thing.
Hmm. Well,
But yeah,
uh,
so something's going on.
yeah. I mean, I agree. In this message, he's claiming to have watched us as we infiltrated Savathun's throne world, which he did with Oryx's throne world, which is kind of funny. He
Yeah,
goes on to compare the Traveler and Savathun as siblings who both bow to a singular master, survival. And then he finishes this letter by calling Savathun the universe's salvation and that she could be ours too if we cast aside our old allegiances. It's very suspect.
it is. Yeah,
And I
it's very
mean,
suspect.
anything being called salvation is always like a red flag now.
Right. Yeah. That's true.
So yeah, I mean, I didn't really pick up on like the difference in Toland here, like I did with like Ikora saying you should kill Zavala and Eris saying you should kill me.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
pick up on Toland's differences, but that's a fair point. You do make a good point that he's not exactly how he normally is.
Right. Well, and I don't want to chalk that up to just being new writers or anything like that because I know that they wouldn't instinctively just take upon a whole new persona and characteristic for a character that's been embedded in the game and cemented in a way. They
Hmm.
wouldn't do that. And specifically certain characters that are at the forefront that have more meat and potatoes to go with their backstory, they
Hmm.
wouldn't do that. It almost feels intentionally done here in this um, whole book as a way to kind of uh, cue you into something as fishy as going on, and especially because it's attributed to the whole Mars thing, where we're basically the gumshoes trying to uncover the mysteries of what's happening with Sabathun and all that stuff. So a lot of this comes into play with detective work and almost like you interrogate this one person and you go interview this other person and then you come back to the person you interrogate to find out that you were lied to and so it's kind of like it's playing with that kind of like you're going here but now you're coming back because you realize not everything you were told was true
Yeah.
or there's more to that story and turns out it was Kaiser Sose all along or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, after Toland, we have another letter. This one from Zavala. And so Zavala approaches us clandestinely in his letter. He talks about the amount of pressure that's on Ikora, and he basically asks us to spy on her. And so I feel like it just needs to be read
Yeah,
because
go for it please.
it's short and it does better being read. Sadly, my concerns come around Ikora are what bring me to you. I know my old friend. She carries her mistakes heavier than anyone else, and giving up the light to Savathun may be too much for her to bear. I can see the cracks forming in her resolve. The Vanguard needs 3 leaders to reflect the needs and perspectives of Earth. I need your help to start the course correcting our and to start course correcting our current trajectory. I will not disgrace Ikora by removing her from her position, but her own flagellations are compromising her awareness and interfering with her ability to keep the city safe. I need a spy master who can work from Ikora's shadow, even, or especially, when she compromises herself, and you are already familiar with her work. I know that eventually Ikora will welcome the freedom of stepping away from the undue burden of her responsibilities, and once things quiet down, we will make your position more formal. Until then, I know I support your decisions and will back whatever changes you must take. I know this is no simple request to entrust you with uncovering our enemy's secrets and with saving my dearest friend's life. And it's again, it's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, come on. Yeah, none of this like read like that to me until you pointed out very early on with the value eight and stuff. So I never, I just read all of this like, just digesting lore, skipping through it, trying to understand what was, being said.
Hmm.
But now it's becoming more and more apparent that yeah, that we're being led somewhere.
Yeah. And like in this one, it says like spy on Ikora,
Yeah.
which is kind of like why. It's like
Yeah.
so you're just like sowing a divide between the
Exactly.
guardians of the city.
It's espionage is what
Yeah.
it is.
But the big thing in here for me, for this one for me is I know that eventually until then, I know I support your decisions and will back whatever changes you must take. Where it's like saying, I will not force her out of her position, but
But
eventually
you
she'll
could.
see that it's the better thing to do. But also, if you just want to kill her, like, I support it. Like,
Yeah.
that's what he's
Yeah.
saying, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're very right. Yeah. You're very right. At
Like,
first,
hey,
if you just read through this real quick, you think all these are just talking about people that are concerned with one another. Um,
yeah,
and you get this kind of like gloss over sense that, oh, they're just basically telling you, like, these are all the perspectives of all the major characters in the game, just telling you their
hmm,
concerns for what about to happen. But then when you start to dive into it, you start to see, wait a minute, why are they telling you, you know certain things? Like, it's almost like you're being led to do something or to disrupt the vanguard and
yeah,
the people that are aligned together. And that whole thing about salvation and Savathun, that's definitely sus.
yeah,
Like,
right.
bro, come on.
And so that kind of brings us to the last entry, which is another encrypted letter from Eris this time, hidden encrypted. And so through proper hidden channels, Eris reaches out to us. She informs us about her doubts that Savathun will stay dead, but that more importantly, that Savathun has taken an interest in us. It is likely that she's been sending false missives in an attempt
there
to undermine our loyalties and redirect our goals.
it
and
is.
and so I'll read this one too, because these were all really kind of short. We could have just read through them all. We didn't even have to
Yeah,
summarize
yeah,
them, to be honest.
yeah.
um you have bested Savathun, at least for all appearances. That is the only assurance we have in facing an enemy who works so subtly on so many different fronts. I still labor to uproot the filaments she spun into our intelligence networks during her tenure as Osiris. Thankfully, a great many have become more obvious without her constant maintenance. You should be aware that Savathun took particular interest in you, and I have uncovered her infiltration of hidden communication channels. It's likely she is responsible for one or more false missives in an attempt to undermine your loyalties and redirect your goals, but her schemes invariably serve multiple agendas. While she works to sway with her words, she encodes secrets to erode your subconscious as well. It is possible one may pick apart these ulterior agendas with a cautious eye, and so I recommend reviewing any communications you have received to search for unusual elements. Report
Yeah,
anything
there
you
it is.
uncover to Ikora or me. And
Value
so,
eight a bowl.
yeah, those eights where it's like, is that like, could that
Yeah,
potentially be some like mind worm that Sabbath, like,
yeah.
what if Savathun did make like sleeper agents?
Sure.
And
Well,
eight
and
is the code, right?
yeah, could be. Like, you're gonna, but see, here's the thing with that, playing with that, right? So are you feeding into that by going back on like Ishtar and looking up everything that has an eight in it and just being distracted by it?
I don't think it's
You know
ever
what I
happened
mean?
before.
No, I
Not
know.
like
I'm just
this.
saying, like, yeah, I'm just saying, like you said, like a mind worm. You know, is it
Yeah.
meant to disrupt and distract you while something else happens?
Yeah, and so that's this entry here. That's the big thing with it. It's like you have this entry and it feels so blatantly obvious. It's like, oh, this is the real Eris telling us
Yeah,
that everything else was false. And it's like, or is everything else real? And everyone is literally just like turning on each other.
right,
And this is Savathun trying to like just sow
right.
more of the chaos.
Yeah. Well, the whole Kate 8 thing is just bothering me.
Yeah. And also there's 8 entries in this lore book. Uh,
Oh, no kidding.
but I also have this note just to kind of wrap it all up. Looking back at all the entries of this book, we start with a letter from Osiris that he couldn't have sent and contradicts the wolf tone draw.
Yeah,
Uh,
perfect.
we can only take that at face value as being an omniscient viewer. So wolf tone draw should be considered purely true, and his letter disagrees. Second, we get a letter from Eris telling us to kill her if she ever seems suspect, and that
Yeah.
swiftness is a mercy. In this entry, she also slips up and writes the value 8. Third, we get a letter from Ikora through official hidden channels telling us to be wary of Finch and to assume anything he tells us is stuff the Hive wants us to know. Fourth, we get a letter from Keitel claiming the body of Osiris that Savathun left at our feet a couple of seasons ago isn't truly Osiris, as Keitel found his true body mutilated on Nessus, effectively
Yeah.
telling us to dispose of the body we do have. Fifth, we get a letter, not hidden encrypted letter, from Ikora preparing us to eventually kill Zavala. In this letter, she also slips up calling Cade 8. This is the second misplaced 8 in these entries. Six, we get the letter from Tolan telling us to trust Savathun and that she would be the universe's salvation. Seventh, we get a letter
What?
from Zavala asking us to betray Ikora and push her out of her role as leader of the Hidden. And eighth, we get a hidden encrypted message from Eris letting us know Savathun impersonating Osiris could have sent out fake missives.
So 8 would be the last entry, which is 8, and that would be the only one you can tell is true.
Yeah.
That would probably be the puzzle, or you
Well,
know,
it seems to me like anything that's like properly encrypted in these entries is true.
yeah.
Although the decryption key from the one Eris sent is QF4LYZX16G money sign ICO 223, whereas Eris is ERI 223 and Ikora is IKO 006. And so her decryption key is QF4LYZX16G money sign ICO 006.
So 223 would come way later down.
Well, 223 is Eris. Do you know what I'm saying? Eris is 223, Ikora is 006. But the decryption key is identical except for the 223 and 006.
Aha.
And so I wonder if there's something more with that, if that's telling, if the decryption codes are always the same decryption keys. Let's look on
So
Ishtar.
so wouldn't it be funny if all of the 006s on Ishtar were like false, and then all the 223s were the real deal?
Okay, well, so altars of reflection all are signed off with the QF4LYZX16G money sign IKO 006.
And so, oh, okay. So here goes the scary part. Is that legit?
I think I think yes.
Hmm.
It's this is
This
the
is
one
very
entry.
interesting.
So this is unless this is Eris using if this is to if this is to imply Eris is using Ikora's decryption key.
Right. Which
Let's
still could
let's
be a
look
thing
let's look up
because if
Eri
you,
223.
all right.
So when Eris wait, access restricted 326. Yeah, so Anor has one for herself, which is 73XK5V2PG1 money sign Anor 326. So Anor is 326.
So are these
But
the hidden? Are these the hidden's number designates?
yes.
Okay.
So Eris is always 223. Ikora
Okay.
is 006.
So somebody
Anor
has so somebody's hacked into Akora's hidden sign-on decryption key from her. So from her decryption key, it could be that Ikora's been hacked.
Yeah, because
Okay.
so then if you were to search AUN-326, which is ignore Anor's
Yeah.
number, her decryption key is 73XK5V2PG1. And you'll find all of her entries have that decryption key, which you can actually just search that decryption key, and it's always Anor 326.
This is this is crazy because okay, so if Ikora's has always been 006, why does Eris in this last entry all of a sudden have a derivation of Ikora's decryption key but with the 223 at the end? Is it because she's overwritten the um, previous decryption key and corrected it since she knew it was hacked or she discovered the hack? And now she's speaking on a 223 so that you can number designate that this is the new text decryption key showing uh, the previous stuff was hacked. Because you have to make so like you have to because every time you make a change in syntax you have to do either an alphanumeric designate to show the change has been made. So that way, if there's a string of communications, you can see where something went wrong, and then there's the new decryption key that's been handed out. So, but the funny thing is so like Ikora's was 006. This is still all of the string is Ikora's
Well,
except for the last designate, which is 223.
yeah, Ikora's designate is 006,
Uh-huh.
but her decryption key is, or at least it appears her decryption key. Oh, that's what I should be searching. I should just be searching decryption key.
Oh yeah,
Her
yeah, there
decryption
you
key
go.
is QF4LYZX16G.
Yep.
And then, so if I were to search decryption key, I'll get everything that has a hidden decryption key. So
Yep.
here's one, for example. The agent is redacted, but their decryption key is 34RM9K5TRAG55 and then dash 30. And I imagine that's because they were redacted. And then 35SN0K6TRAG55 31.
Yeah.
And so these
Yeah.
are
So
all
those are
different
all.
hidden agents decryption keys.
Yeah.
Dash 018.
So then the money sign probably just has to do with like the the leaders or the top, right? Because then you've got the I
Well, I
because
think
those are
that's
known.
like the connector. It's to say like this is their
Okay,
decryption key Icora 006.
okay, gotcha.
At least
And so
that's
the
what I'm taking it to mean.
yeah,
The hidden
it's like
dossier.
it's like yeah, it's like sleeper agents. And then you've got, the ones that are the known leaders of those agents, like Ikora and whatnot.
Okay, okay. Well, here's another one. Here's another one. In the hidden dossier, Ikora has a different decryption key. It's 2CA9SXUO2C, and she uses that decryption key multiple times within the hidden dossier.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Okay.
it. Just twice. And then she uses a different one in the same dossier, Z2TET3C4WZTLR L8NV5. So it must be like a different level. It must be like this is more of a serious one.
L8NV5.
I wonder if these decrypt to anything. Like, is something like staring us in the face and we're just completely missing it?
Well, who knows? But it's funny because like the only ones that really stand out are the ones that have the root name of the individual, the known individual, like Honor's and like Ikora's, and um, so if you look at those, you kind of get an idea of who's talking, what they're talking about. But for the redacted ones, they're just very much hidden. So like they're not going to tell you up front. They're not going to give the money sign, call sign, name, number, designate at the end. They just leave it the
Yeah.
alphanumeric pretext. So then, like if you look at, I'm looking at all of them right now. I'm just glossing over them. Like you've got Honor's, which is a money sign AUN326, and then you've got um, you know shoot, and then you've got some that were invalid decryption keys. Um, this is strange.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something to that. Whether it's like a big, super encoded message or not, I don't know. It could just be that they're bringing it up here in this particular book because they want you to know that everything that came before that was IKO-006 was the hacked messages, and now we're on IKO 223
Yeah.
because you had to get a new password or whatever.
I just think that's weird that yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's that Eris noticed something and so she was using Ikora's decryption key.
Yeah, yeah, because she has access to it somehow, which is fine. I mean, at this point, you either have to just go along for the ride because Eris has been here with her crazy madness for so long that what else are you gonna do but kind of trust her?
Yeah. I mean, that's something that still kind of like comes up, like this idea of
Sure.
Eris's dark future. It's like, is it still possible for Eris to betray us? And I think the most common take on it is that, yeah, I mean, technically it's still possible for Eris to betray us. Anyone could betray us at any moment, but it's that we've given Eris like a system of support where she has no reason to betray us.
Exactly. And we know her backstory enough to know that she's about the most realist person that we've had to deal with because just going off of what's happened to her traumatic past, and going down into the pit, and then even her nightmares like told us right away, hey, she's just as screwed as everybody else. It's
Yeah.
just she's actually doing something about it, to a point of just straight up head butting vengeance in a way. But it is still kind of crazy because you think about her power that she has is unlike anyone else's,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's wild. And then like what I always go back to is um, the Eris, the name Eris is from the Greek goddess of strife and discord, right?
Yeah.
And she was in that whole mythology. She was the one that threw the golden apples out onto the table, her rock table. She threw the golden apple out on the table for all of the other gods to fight over.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always been a thing that looms in my mind that, well, could she, or is she somewhat responsible for everything? And so like you never
Well, I
can
mean,
tell.
yeah. if you really want to get down to the question of is she responsible for everything, it's like yes, she is because she's the one who her and her fire team went to fight Crota and they learned the secret
Yeah,
of how to beat Crota and
yeah,
beating Crota brought Oryx and beating Oryx brought Savathun and et cetera, et cetera, et
yeah,
cetera. It's just
yeah.
a matter of which do you prefer.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, I
Well,
mean,
uh
I think we've brought more questions than
yeah,
answers on this
that's
episode.
true. I started reading this book, and that's why we decided to do it. I started reading this book, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's gonna be like all these like good foreshadows and things like that." Because I
Uh,
had that friend
yeah,
telling me about the thing about Osiris, and I mean, we have to get through all the books anyway. That's what we do here. But it
yeah.
very quickly became, wait a second, wait a second, wait a second, this isn't right.
I like the idea though. I like the idea. So I like the idea of the whole book and how they're, basically hacked letters that were sent to us to try to disrupt the the vanguard and the consensus, which we recently learned, the consensus has been disbanded, and so we're kind of left to deal with the
Wait, it has?
yes in the Shayura lore. It just glosses over it real quick. It says the consensus has been disbanded, and it says nothing else about it.
Okay. Yeah. See, there are just things that I've been
Yeah,
missing.
which that's not like a surprise because we know that the leaders of the factions have left. So it kind of makes
Yeah, I mean,
sense.
without them, what is the consensus?
Exactly. So it just kind of makes sense. Plus, we FWC effed up. So we have that whole thing. So I mean, there's a lot of like, um, we need to regroup. We need to remake. But if you think about it, what a perfect opportunity for a representative to come in and try to infiltrate and do some espionage and send out some missives, send out some letters and try to destabilize the leadership in the tower and come up with some sort of a way to, because divide and conquer, right?
Hmm.
So um the witness could be behind that all along. Who knows? I don't know that they would. I don't know, man. Because like, how direct does the witness? How indirect does the witness need to be if it it has that much power?
Yeah.
Like, where is the ultimate play? If you're some like total um, being that you can just do like world annihilation and all this stuff,
Well, I
why?
imagine they're probably gonna go that route of like we have rules that we have to follow type of bullshit.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
I
And
can
then it's
like the
kind of
witness
like
can
how,
strike out against the traveler, but it can't strike
yeah,
out directly against people.
yeah. And then there also is that whole thing, is this just grooming us to be the newest Rolk,
Yeah,
right?
I mean
You
maybe
know,
it is.
because they've got to put you through all these trials and tribulations, whether it was artificial in a way or not, it helped build who you are that they ultimately want to use as the weapon or whatever, or the crowbar against the light,
Hmm.
yada yada yada. I mean, if you think about it, the Guardian as a whole is basically the ultimate tool slash weapon, and so how do you gain control of that? You've got to be kind of deceitful and ruse them into certain situations and build them up and get them stronger and put more fat on their bones so that they'll
Hmm.
be much more meaningful and better for you. Hone your weapon, right? Sharpen
Hmm.
it. And so uh, you know maybe that's it. This
Speaking
is
of the
nuts.
future and speaking of like sowing this chaos,
Yep.
there is one other thing that we can mention.
Okay.
This past week, the top left corner flag for weapons, who their foundry is, Cassoid has been added, which is interesting because we only have like three Cassoid weapons: Ariana's Vow, Dead Messenger, which apparently doesn't actually meet the bill because it was like recreated. It was like built upon by Cabal, I guess,
Yeah.
and
Well,
Telesto.
I mean, if you're speaking solely D2, I mean,
Yeah,
Castlewood,
Telesto.
yeah, yeah.
And
But if you go all the way back, you know, we had uh Painted Moss Artist, Bronze Nox Valo, Prime Nox Revis.
mhm. Yeah, various blue weapons, of course.
Yeah, yeah,
But the other important one is Invective. And so you
yeah.
have Ariana, who's a warlock and was probably a part of the Praxic Fire.
Hmm.
You have Ikora, who's a warlock, and I'm pretty sure she was part of Praxic Fire as well.
Well,
And
okay, so here's the thing about Ikora. So I tuned in on this a long time ago, back when we had the ornaments
Iconoclast.
for yeah, so we had Iconoclast. And so Iconoclast, what does that mean? That is Ikora. Ikora's history as the punk rock crucible badass that she was, and she went against the whole idea. She was a loner. She was out there, you know, being punk rock and just like having her Sturm and Drang days
Hmm.
and going against what she thought was kind of like just following the herd behind the light, ultimately to learn the bigger lesson that is no, it's not these sheeple following the light. It's they need somebody to show them what is the correct way to follow the light. And so she became a warlock in that whole representation of a warlock. She looked at these leaders that she had, like Osiris and all these other people, and she looked to them to see what are the pitfalls, the follies, and what is all of the things that can happen. And she became the best representative of the warlocks uh, in the Vanguard. And so Ikora, her symbols on her shotgun, and you know the lore behind the invective, which was, you know, they came for my ghost, and that was basically it, right? Um, so if you look at the symbol on invective, you notice the cassoid symbol, and then there's another symbol beside it.
Hmm.
And so we know that now in D2, we know that the praxics are, you know, really hardcore on the right side of things
Yeah.
to the
And
point where
so
they've got some pretty effed up ways of dealing with things.
yeah. So um and the last not the last weapon, but we have Ikora's weapon, warlock weapon. We have Ariana's weapon, warlock weapon. Dead Messenger was augmented. We don't know if it belonged to anyone in particular before that, but Telesto, the original grimoire for it. This is an interesting thing. Expanded search of Saturn's nearby moons produced only one notable discovery: a cloud of harbinger matter collected around Saturn's 13th moon,
Yeah,
designation Telesto. A sample is enclosed for your examination. So Telesto basically utilizes the power that Marisov's harbingers, her like big bad
yeah,
secret weapon that terrified fleets of fallen,
right.
is utilized in this gun, and it's kind of like, what the fuck is this gun? Like, what the fuck is this foundry? And
And
so we speak about Praxic Fire because these robes that should be on screen right now, um,
oh yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah.
not.
I love this one. I used to love to point this one out.
Okay, they are. The robes of the Praxic Fire. On the back collar here, you have what is clearly like a fragment of the cassoid symbol, and it's
Exactly.
missing the entire top branch, and it's missing these downward sloping branches. So it's not entirely positive it if it kind of goes against the Praxic Fire, if like Praxic Fire started the Cassoid Foundry and they kind of moved away from it, or if it was the reverse, or whatever the
Or it
case
could
may
just be
be.
built off of that whole thing. It's also like Daito. We know Daito was one of the oldest foundries,
Hmm.
and Daito is, very much in real world a long sword, and it's one of the oldest weapons that was ever manufactured. And it's just kind of like what the mystery behind Daito and why they had so much to do with uh, the Golden Age, and then we don't really know much else about them.
Yeah.
The Telesto, uh, the cool thing about Telesto was not just the lore, but because of how it was built. Um,
Hmm.
when you go back in the day, the lore behind Telesto, we didn't have a whole lot.
Yeah, it was
But
just
if
that
you,
one entry.
yeah, exactly. And so, if you think about the harbingers um, that hit the dreadnought, and you think about if that's the harbingers, if that's what the material is of the harbingers in Telesto, which we had, before that happened, um, this could have been ultimately just a byproduct of that development of the harbingers.
Yeah.
And the ornaments, which I love this one too. The ornaments very much have to do with the whole story of the Awoken and the Queen and the battle and all that stuff. Like we
Hmm.
have the dread from below, which is definitely talking about the dreadnought. And if you look at the ornament for the dread from below, it looks very much like the Ahamkara that she had hidden in the Dreaming City. And then Long Live the Queen, which is another one, which has a Dreaming City aesthetic to it. And then the early ones, which were Telesto's Lingering Vestige and Queen's Command, those had very much had a lot to do with the queen, and their aesthetics were really cool looking too. And they were like colored purple and stuff and pinkish purple, whatever.
You missed Reef and Ruin.
Yeah, that's the cool one because Reef and Ruin, if you look at it, it has a lot of the whole aesthetic for. Remember how the reef look, and it had a lot of fallen tech, and it was stripped down and kind of like rusty. And then you got a lot of like the purple color from the servitors and stuff like that. That's the
Mhm.
one that kind of makes me think of the reef. But anyway, good stuff.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like the Lingering Vestige, Awoken kind of have that like pulse go over their skin. So like that's like the beginning, right? It's the distributary and the
Yeah,
non-distributary Awoken, a Lingering Vestige, and then you go Queen's Command because Marasov takes over, and then
yeah,
probably the next one will be the Dread from Below, and then Reef and Ruin, and then Long Live the Queen.
yeah,
It is a very interesting story to follow through with weapons like that. But so the thing I was gonna bring up, with the whole Praxic Fire, as you said, we now know how kind of dangerous the Praxic Order is and how like fanatical they are, and it just feels like they've been slowly building up, like Sheura, for example, and Nor for a little bit. All these Praxic Warlocks who are very avidly against the use of darkness, and we're on the cusp of more and more darkness coming.
yeah,
Like Lightfall has got to have something happening, right? So it's just like it almost feels like one of two things is going to happen. And the first is the Praxic Order is going to preemptively strike and be like, we are stopping the use of darkness. We are taking over the city. We are like controlling what guardians are able to learn and just like go like full fucking like police state for the city and preventing the furthering of the darkness.
exactly. Which is like that's the whole modus operandi with the Praxics. They
Yeah.
just want to evoke martial law. They
Yeah,
want
that's the word I
everybody
was
to
thinking
be
of.
under control. Yeah, they want to have total um, here's say as far as what's going on with what's considered heretical and what is considered the walk of the light, right? Anything outside of their viewpoint is considered heretical, and they want to stop it. So if you were to usher in a representative of the Praxics to take over the Vanguard, the city, whatever control, it's going to get really crazy and
Yeah.
horrible.
And so that's one. They preemptively take over control before Lightfall happens, and maybe that's what these next two seasons are. And the reverse is they're gonna still build it up, and then when Lightfall happens, and it's like whether it's like the second collapse or what, and then Guardians are picking up more and more darkness, that's when
Yeah.
they go, that's it. That was the final straw. Clearly you can't be trusted. We're taking over. But I very much expect they are going to take over or attempt at the very least attempt to take over very soon.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody was worried about New Monarchy, and now now it's the stupid Praxics.
Yeah.
Which okay, so the thing about the Praxics is very solar oriented. It's also their whole idea is that in order to um, they have this whole thing about conflagration and burning away the darkness. Like everything is a solar, which they identify as the purest form of light. They want to destroy their enemies and themselves is the ultimate sacrifice to kill the enemy is to sacrifice themselves
Mm-hmm.
like Ariana did and like what's her name down in Sabathun's song Tycho, the one that everybody likes to meme about.
Yeah. Takeo.
uh,
Takeo
yeah,
3.
Takeo. Yeah. And so like if you think about that, they are so headstrong into the battle that they're willing to give up everything just to burn it all down.
Mm-hmm.
They throw their bodies onto, the enemy and just flame on, right?
Yeah. I'm excited to see what's coming. I wonder if we're going to
Yeah.
actually see any teases for the season before the showcase, or if the showcase teases the season, or, I mean, who knows? Who knows
Who
what's going to
knows?
happen?
Who knows? I'm excited. I think everybody
Yeah.
is to a point. We're in
Yeah,
a
I'm
lull
excited
right
as
now,
well.
so we're in a lull right now. I know we got the solstice going on, but it's kind of like it's a little bit to be expected. We know
Mm-hmm.
what's going on with that, but as far as looking forward, what's coming next, this is a big one.
Yeah. I'm very excited for the future, and I'm very excited for our next show, which will be on August 7th. And
Woohoo!
that is, so that show. Oh, now I was going to make a joke about it being about the Sandman because it's coming out on August 5th.
Yeah, I can't wait for that show.
I'm very excited. I love the Sandman. I have the omnibuses over there, the nice leather bound
Nice,
ones.
nice.
Yeah. But yeah, so join us on August 7th, same time, same place. We're going to be talking about maybe probably the what is it, Candescent armor,
Yeah,
because that
yeah.
all has stuff on it as well that we can get into. The solstice stuff, we'll have more about the solstice to say, so that'll be fun. Um, Anything else to say?
Well, that's it.
All right, well, bye everybody.
Bye.